Bay, and by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here in another truly terrific Tuesday's edition of Talk Today, as we invite you to be a part of it. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you for joining us. And if you happen to be watching or listening to us on YouTube or Facebook, well, welcome. If you are indeed unsure of whether you want to do that or not, well, you know what, sit and draw with a friend and, enjoy it. Obviously, purists for radio, so thank you for tuning in if you still have a radio. We did a quick survey the other day, just informal, driven, if she doesn't mind, by her mental health community nurse over at the HSA, Nurse Tipner. How many of us actually physically have radios in our house? Not a hurricane radio, they wind up just in case of, energy outage, but actually a radio. And just for fun, went a little further. How many of us have, CDs and DVDs? How many of us have, cassettes? And strangely enough, there's one of us, I won't name him, could be family, has an 8-track. Now, what was, once seemed like, really, you're a collector, a novelty. It's now almost, an indication of how technology has advanced so much. That discussion, believe it or not, led into other things. And again, potentially, at least in my mind, specifically and deliberately, sparked by a comment from a discussion yesterday. We were talking about the Cayman Arts Festival. We were speaking specifically about the wonderful play, if you can put it as such, from the perspective of the performance and the importance of the play. The story of Mayor Prince was on at the Harquail on Saturday from Sunday evening. But in speaking to Amantha Mead, who just referenced in such a keen way that when we look at research and the further back you go from that original source, you realize that, what is today may have been different. 300 years ago, as she puts it, and 300 years prior. And that original source over time gets changed, whether that's just transliteration, deliberate, or whether it's just inadvertent, but it changes, only to emphasize the importance of having something that you can trust and verify and have it preserved, not just for decades but for centuries, so that over the course of human history, we don't have to have what, unfortunately, at least, and if you think that's not a correct way to phrase it, please, 949-8037. That doesn't work for you, 949-6990. If that doesn't work for you, 1-800-534-8255. If that doesn't work for you, 925-3261. WhatsApp and share it with us. But over the course of time, if things change and we no longer have the honest, accurate, not just the interpretation, translation, but the actual record, then what happens? Think today, as I was about to say, the unfortunate circumstance where we have alternate truths. Now, probably many of us would recall, say that something is either true or it isn't true. You can have two statements, they both can be a lie, but they both can't be true. One can be true, and one can be not true. But they both can't be true, or can they? Well, take me to task. School me, as they say. 949-8037, 949-6990. I had a very, very engaging discussion earlier, and it was carefully, let me share it, an educator sharing that some of the things that you get over your years of education go beyond the classroom and the textbooks, as it were back in the day. Now maybe it's the delivery format is a bit different, and it isn't the intellect and the insight that children share, or the honesty with which, but sometimes the way that they see things and the literal translations and interpretations of things. But increasingly, recognizing that from the educator's perspective, what is happening, within our education system and with the educating of our children, are they being not only encouraged but allowed to think freely, to be able to question things, not in a manner that creates problems for others, but in a manner that if they are not necessarily conforming to that particular mindset that is being portrayed, either in their own homes and schools and communities and the media, they're just questioning. Can we nurture that so that they're not on the fringe and as these outliers to become pariahs in our society, but that they're thought leaders. This educator shared that oftentimes it's the way we not only perceive things, but the way we present them, the way we phrase things. How does that impact our children? Very impressionable at very early ages, but also very malleable even as they enter university, and some even when they enter their careers. As an example, this educator referenced a particular, at that time, former student who just happened to have been in the company this morning, and was sharing recalls very early on that this particular student went from being fairly reticent to becoming increasingly more and more outspoken, and then into the career field, and can see the influence of different people in the lives of this former student. Well, if that influence can be positive and productive, if the nurturing can be constructive and in a way that encourages individuals to become people who not only have to lead and shape society in a positive way, but they themselves bring others along as well. Well, so there's some open line as our scheduled guests may join us when and if their schedule allows, but we will continue, and we want to hear from you. 949-8037, 949-6990, or 1-800-534-8255. The WhatsApp is available if you so choose. You can record a voice note. You can send us something to read on your behalf. Happy to do so. 925-3261 is our WhatsApp. All right, we're going to pause and take the first break. Very short, quick break. Very grateful to the fantastic sales team we have, for advertisers for knowing without any convincing that really came on and provides the widest reach. We cover all markets. It's the reason why we are the leaders that we are. All right, let's pause and take that break, and when we come back, we'll talk today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Start your day in the know. Don't miss a beat. Radio Cayman's 7 a.m. news keeps you informed every Monday through Saturday at 7 a.m. Proudly brought to you by Walkers, a reputation for excellence. Learn more about the Walkers Scholarship and Legal Training Program at walkersglobal.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us. It is open line 949-8037, 949-6990. 1-800-534-8255. That's 1-800-534-TALK. WhatsApp 925-3261. Hey, share with us. Also, in that early discussion, as the educator was sharing, the perspective is that sometimes more and more when we hear public, calls for increased civic education in schools, the question is to what extent, when that seems to be either materializing deliberately and directly in the formal classroom setting, and later on those students or by extension others engage publicly in questioning government. Is that not seen as civics education? Is that not hopefully from the educator's perspective the benefit of having informed society? Now the educator gave the perspective that often when we hear these calls, they're just lip service, because when people start to question, and then it seems that many, whether it's in the political or appointed realm, seem to take it as an affront to their, office, their particular dealings, with public funds and with their policies and the like. Case in point, here's an educator for whom there is an interest in the financial, stability of a country. The perspective being that the financial stability could heavily influence the social stability, given, as many would probably share, if people are not employed, are not content, are not able in their minds to see, a future with hope and promise, not only for themselves as they age, but perhaps for their children and grandchildren, there may be growing disquiet. That disquiet may manifest itself verbally, and just generally speaking, as the educator emphasized, it could, as in many jurisdictions, result in the populace, taking public stands, protests, perhaps even organizing, different types of demonstrations. Some jurisdictions, as history would reveal, that has resulted in what we have termed a civil war. Now, he said perhaps that's an oxymoron if there ever is one. But at the end of the day, to what extent is that happening in the Cayman context? The question that was asked, and perhaps if it's not, from your perspective, an improper question to repeat, I'll be guided by you. With governments and past governments to date, given the nature of our system, they're continuing debt. So a government of one administration may borrow tens of millions or hundreds of millions or whatever the sum is, and this is, as perhaps very obvious, isn't just specific to the Cayman Islands or to the Caribbean, but we see it in the modern democracies of the West. But let's speak to the Cayman context. So if a successive government borrowed a sum to do a capital project or to be utilized in the financing and running of the country and the like, from paying its ongoing expenses to other things, that debt more than likely will not be retired during that particular administration, whether they have one term or two or X number, whether that goes over 4 years or extends beyond. With that in mind, the comment being very obvious, that then has to be a debt that is serviced and maintained by successive governments, whether it's the sitting government, whether it's the new and totally, different perspective of the government of the day. Now, when the subsequent governments borrow additional funds, then those funds get added, and then increasingly there's increased debt that needs to be serviced by the country. Simple civics education. With that in mind, the question was asked, well, in an economy that seemingly is overheated, and the explanation given, if you look, high rates of employment, so much so that you have to find additional people to fill all of the available jobs, and if you create a job, there are even more people to come that are demanding, space to be considered for those new jobs, not just available jobs. And then from that perspective, you have more and more and more. Now, when you have that notion transpiring, the question that was asked, and you can think about it, or our guests are here, we'll ask it, and then maybe you can pick it up in the open eye segment at 1 to 1:30. Is the borrowing to pay for ongoing sort of maintenance of government, it's continuing expenses, or is it for additional things? Let's phrase that again later, but give it some thought. Let's pause. When we come back, more talk today.
They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway we're introducing the new boneless hot sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Upgrade your summer travel plans with non-stop flights from Grand Cayman to Panama. Panama airfares are now on sale from just $296 CI round trip. In just 2 hours aboard Cayman Airways, you can be in a land where the Caribbean meets the Pacific, where you'll find modern cities, rainforests, and so much more. Book by March 4th to catch Panama airfares on sale. Other conditions apply. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Panama getaway today.
Are you a Caymanian job seeker searching for employment? All jobs, whether full-time, part-time, temporary, or permanent, will be required to advertise on the Jobs Cayman portal. Visit work.ky. That's worc.ky to start your job search to see all available jobs or to apply. For assistance in registering or to learn more, call toll-free 1-800-534-9672 or customer care at 945-9672. 945-9672 today.
Talk to Dick.
But I do have some questions.
Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. And it's always a pleasure to be able to learn, and especially if we get a chance to focus on either education or health. I think they're the most important things in life. Well, from Health City, the radiation oncologist, Dr. Rashan. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for coming on board. How are you today?
Thank you. It's great. It's a great day, and I'm happy to be here.
All right. You know, it's interesting that we have, I think, so many times such a resource available to us, and often we don't appreciate because we're not sufficiently informed. So if we could, through you, not only ask about, radiation oncology and what it is, but, give us what is radiation oncology?
So radiation is actually, we are radiation oncologists. We treat patient with radiation. So radiation is basically high energy X-rays, and with the help of this, we'll treat tumor. So basic idea is, with the help of this radiation, we first incapacitate the tumor. So it actually loses the capacity to divide, and eventually, because of DNA damage and all, and it will die. So cell will eventually die because of radiation.
So it's very targeted that it can...
So it's actually a very precise kind of thing. So before doing this, we do some kind of pre-planning. In pre-planning, we'll just do one CT scan in which we just delineate the tumor. So we'll just define where it is. So after a definition, we'll just send these patients, before treating the patients, we'll take one more scan also. And then we just fuse these two scans. And if we are very sure we are targeting the same area, then we'll go ahead with the radiation. So it's very precise. There is nothing to worry actually.
Okay. Yeah. Now, radiation, and I think some of us are increasingly familiar when it comes to cancers, unfortunately, the prevalence. We hear about chemotherapy, there's radiation and everything.
Yeah.
How does radiation and chemotherapy differ?
Okay. So, radiation and chemo, actually, there are two branches, and they both are used together to deal with the cancer. And the third branch is surgical oncology, in which we perform surgery also. So, radiation is basically localized kind of thing, like... radiation is a local kind of treatment, like surgery. So it's like we are just, as we already discussed, we are just we are giving the precise dose to the tumor. And as compared to the chemotherapy, chemotherapy is like when you are giving it IV, it's going to the whole body. So it's a systemic kind of treatment. It's not a localized. So the side effects that you get with the chemotherapy is you're getting from head to toe, because it's already in the blood, so it's moving with the blood. So, but in case of radiation, it's precisely we are dealing locally in the local environment. So I think the side effects that are focused, if there are any.
Yeah.
So I think that is the biggest difference, and by which we can just control the things, and it will give lesser side effects in the future. Yeah.
And with radiation, then help us, if you would help us understand. We can, and I use the chemotherapy as perhaps an easy way to compare the two. Many would be, the person taking chemo, there may be a port, as you said, there's an IV. We see that process. They're sitting there potentially for hours, and they're slowly being infused. For radiation, what is the process? What does it look like? Is it a laser beam being targeted through? What does that look like?
So actually, I think there is an idea about most safety. I think you're talking
that
about
as well, but also how it's done.
So actually, this is a procedure. There is a pre-planning kind of thing. So before leaving the radiation, we need some time to properly plan the things. So because we'll do the CT scan, then we'll do the drawings just to around the tumor where we want to treat, and the other organs which we want to save. So after doing this simulation scan, patient actually go home, and we work on that, and on the day of treatment we call the patient. So on that day, patient usually take maximum 15 to 20 minutes only. So But the schedule for radiation is planned beforehand, and likely we'll plan 30 to 35 settings. That means patient has to come to the hospital 30 to 35 times, and it was 5 times a week, and Saturday, Sunday is off. So if coming to the safety, I think there is not a big issue. So I think it should, the people who are thinking that maybe they are giving some laser or something like that, it is like a, you can say this our light, bulb light, that is also radiation. So it's present only when we are switching on the light. So if we switched off the light, there is no radiation. Like so it's the same kind of thing actually. So no need to worry.
Okay. And for the different types of cancers, can radiation be used for almost any? Are there any cancers where you could not use radiation therapy?
So actually, radiation, suppose there is a group of patients. So 2/3 of the patients require radiation at any point of time in their life time when they're getting treated for this cancer. So the radiation we use in different combinations actually. Sometimes we used in combination with surgery. Sometimes we used in combination with the chemotherapy. And that kind of scenario actually, that depends on what kind of tumor we are dealing with. Suppose if we are treating the CA breast. So that patient requires surgery also, maybe after that surgery, chemotherapy and radiation, depending upon what kind of report that comes after surgery. So actually we have to discuss all these things in, there is a multidisciplinary tumor ward in our hospital where we discuss all these cases. So after a discussion, we'll come up with what is the best plan for that patient. And when we devise that, I think then we can go easily. There is not a big deal.
The patient will come in, once the therapy has been determined, they come in for the treatment. You say maybe 30 minutes, they do the radiation, and then they can go back home. They return, say the next day. Those 5 days, Saturday and Sundays off. They do that for 6-7 weeks or thereabouts, and then
daily they have to come to 10 to 15 minutes, and maybe then he has 5 days a week, and for 6 weeks. So you're telling that they are fixed to that hospital. You're telling that,
So that's so while they're there, and then after that course of 35 sessions or so, hopefully the outcome will be positive. The tumor will be gone.
Yeah, actually, we'll assess the patient after this radiation, and that actually we need to give some time to the radiation to work actually. So we'll call the patient immediately, maybe after 6 weeks, just for assessment if there is any toxicity, just to see that, and then after 3 months. At that time, we'll do the scan just to see if there is any tumor left or it's gone. If there is left, we'll plan something else, or we maybe increase the dose of radiation. And if it's gone, we'll just keep the patient on follow up.
Okay. Yeah. And Dr. Roshan, if you'll help us, I think sometimes by being able to compare something to something, we might be able to understand it. So I want to make sure that I'm fully sort of understanding what is what. With chemo, we take certain, I guess, blood work, whatever, to make sure their white blood cells are correct. And then with radiation, what sort of things happen before, if any, for radiation?
Okay, so for this also, we need a few scans just to see, locate the tumor, where it is. Because if we locate the tumor, then half the job is done, because we know then where to target the disease. And for like blood works, we need actually a few blood tests. So if it's normal, we can do that. And if during radiation, this radiation will not hurt your blood works, because we are targeting only to the tumor, right? Okay. So I think that is not a big deal. Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to quickly pause and take this short break. Oh, wow. And is that what we're doing, Miss Susan? Okay. Sorry, Mom. She's telling me take a break. No, okay, she's the boss, man. I tell you.
No problem.
She's amazing. Yeah. All right. So with that, as we're talking to Dr. Roshan over at Health Facility Radiation Oncologist, and that added sort of approach now to treatment in Cayman with the radiation, as we're looking for more people. What do you say to patients who would be considering radiation versus some other therapy?
So first thing, I think we should they should don't feel like it's whether it's safe or not. So it's actually a completely safe procedure, and when it is required, it's required. We have to do it. So there are certain things where we can start the patient with the radiation, like post surgery. If we want to sterilize that area, suppose something is left post surgery, there are some cells are there, and we have to treat that and sterilize that area so that the tumor should not come back in the future. So in those cases, we add radiation. And the cases where we just want to treat the tumors radically, that means we don't want to use any other modality. We want to use only radiation. In those cases also, radiation does wonders actually. So it can give the cure.
Okay.
So I think the next thing is there in your question, but I can make out of it is myths. What are the myths actually?
Yeah.
So there is, because you can come, or definitely you can come at the hospital, you can get treated, and after that you are not radioactive. Yeah. So there is a myth actually. The patient becomes radioactive and whether he can go home or not, because in other scenarios like in PET CT, we'll give some kind of radioactive dye or something. So we give some instruction to the patient, don't go and play with the children or in the family. But in the radiation, there is not like that. If you are treated, definitely you can go home. You can chat with your family. You can play with the kids. There is not issue like that.
Yeah, it doesn't make you superhuman. Huh?
Yeah,
yes, really
active. Yeah. Sure.
No, Dr. Prashant, from that as well, we see many times, patients are diagnosed where physicians say stage 1 or stage. Is there a point at which state radiation would be more effective, and a point at which, stage X radiation would not count?
So idea is actually to catch the tumors in very early stages.
Mm-hmm.
So there are pre-stages when there is a tumor formation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should catch the tumor then and there, so that the patient should not require any treatment, there is a role of screening at that point of time.
Mm-hmm.
Then you discuss about stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Stage 1, when there is a tumor, is very confined to from where it is getting originated. Suppose lung cancer, or from liver it's originating, so it's a liver tumor. But stage 1, that is confined to that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And stage 2, when it is involving the adjacent lymph nodes, which are just there are roots through the lymphatic channel from where the tumor is traveling. These are the first guards actually, who are standing there to stop the tumor. So when this is involved, that is stage 2. And when there are multiple nodes, then it becomes stage 3. And when it goes from that site and go to the other parts of the body, then it's a stage 4. So in all the stages, we require radiation at certain point of time. But in stage 1, 2, 3, there is the idea is to give the tumor radical treatment. That means we are curing the disease. But in stage 4, we are treating those patients for maybe control the pain or the pressure symptoms of the tumor. And sometimes patient comes with bleeding through mouth, or through maybe with vomitus. In that scenarios, we just add radiation to control the symptoms. That means it has a palliative role also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And this is where I think that early detection and so for cancers, we're grateful that the Lions Club Top Gardens in particular, I think in my mind, have been the pioneers relative to early detection and screenings and the like. But for cancer screening, would you say to patients, even if you don't think, should they still come and ask the doctor specifically to check them for cancers, and if so, how often?
Screening is actually done when the patient is healthy, and it is into certain age. Maybe I'll tell you the simple idea of doing it is just patient above 40 years of age, whether male or female. There are different tumors that comes actually after that age. So we just tell, see a breast, age if age is, suppose a female patient, age more than 40. So I think we should go with certain kind of mammogram and that kind of thing. And if suppose in the family there is one or more person is suffering from the tumor, then that age can be decreased. Maybe we'll start 2025. So that kind of thing. Actually, it depends upon in which scenario we are doing it.
Okay.
Similarly, suppose we are male patient is having some difficulty in passing urine, or he's passing blood through the urine. In those cases, we can in our mind it comes, it may be a prostate. Maybe we'll send some tests for those patients just for screening. And these are the blood tests simply. We don't do any invasive test for that kind of thing. So it's like maybe after 50, we'll send these patients to subject to these patients to the certain kind of test, so that we can come to know whether there is a tumor is there or not.
Yeah. We understand, and I just want to make sure that we understand it correctly. Your age, your gender, your family history could all play a role. But for that patient who, for whatever reason, you have a 25-year-old, you have a 35-year-old who's coming, trying to be healthy with lifestyle choices, eating, sleeping, exercise, goes to the physician, she says, I want to check. The male who says, I want to make sure I don't have any issues, but I just want to make sure there's a peace of mind. What do you say to those younger patients?
There are certain patients who just think about it, maybe because nothing is there, is completely fit, but still thinking maybe he's having some kind of malignancy or not. So in those cases, I think we'll just discuss with the patient. We'll just counsel them. Whether it's because that needs actually that will give the peace of mind to him. And in case we find on any clinical examination or history something is fishy, then we can actually plan some kind of test. Otherwise, I think these kind of patients just need counseling. That's all.
Okay, yeah. Just continue to be as healthy, get their regular checkups, but don't become overwhelmed by the fact. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us. We see things around us and we become concerned, perhaps thinking we're proactive, but in a weighs on us. So just do the regular checks. And those standard checks should be sufficient, whether they do it every year or every 2 years. For that younger, healthier patient that seemingly don't have any history.
Because I think certain patients are kept to, certain things are kept to physician to decide actually when we should perform test or not. But if you are feeling anything, any symptom, this is just another nickname, if any symptom that is not resolved for the next 2 or 3 weeks, even if you are taking medications. So I think that is the time you should consult your doctor and you should plan some kind of health checkup.
Okay, all right. And this is where I think, we have a resource right here, in this country that we can have a sense of peace of mind. The facility, the individuals like yourselves. But we see the presence of cancer many times, and we feel it's in all of our lives, affecting us directly because we are the patient going through the treatment, or as someone that we work with, we know as a family member. That prevalence of cancer, can we do anything to help the lay people that there is hope?
Yeah, actually, for this interview, I was just going through the data regarding Cayman. Do we have that just to decide to plan something? But when I was going through the different websites, but it was not there actually. So I think through your health show, we can actually tell them, okay, I think if we don't know the data, how we'll plan the strategies to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is actually required. I think through your show, you can just create awareness for that. Yeah.
And this is it. This is where that statistical data helps us to know the incidence of different illnesses, cancers and the like, which ones are more prevalent. What then would be the required sort of resources that we can devote allocate to that. Yeah. It's perhaps for some many an easier decision, but for others they may be emotive. They hear about cancer and it weighs heavily.
Yeah, sure.
Has the treatment, and I certainly appreciate your time sharing with us, right? So as we close out the discussion, has the approach from the medical community and then the receptiveness on patients relative to the diagnosis and treatment of cancer to a place now where people are seeing it, that there is hope, despite I want to be sensitive to people. Yeah. But in the past, we have a cancer diagnosis. We know how people are affected by it. Has that gone to a space where people are saying, okay, all hope isn't lost. There are certain things that can do to, treat it, to heal you.
So idea is, I think, before treating the patient, I think we should educate the community regarding prevention. So prevention is, again, the idea is to just catch the disease early. For that, screening actually plays a very good role. And you can avoid the certain things that you should not do because that will increase your risk to get the cancer. And that is, again, I think smoking. Everyone knows actually. We have to just follow it, like smoking, alcohol, combination of these two. Certain infections like hepatitis B or human papilloma virus, these kind of infections, they can also lead to cancer. And some radon gas that is actually very prevalent in this part. That we should avoid actually these kind of things just to get rid of the malignancy in the future. Yeah.
And that's interesting you mentioned radon gas, because sometimes we don't even realize its prevalence and how we may be.
I've read the literature. Actually, it's very common in US, UK. I don't know on this island. I don't know what is the actually if it is there or not. But that is actually very common cause for lung cancer. And people inhale this gas. Yeah.
Knowing our environmental factors, I think, would help us to understand the potential negative impacts on us. This is where we learn, and the more we learn, the more questions we can ask if we seek honestly to.
I think question is more important than the answer.
Yes.
You ask the right question, you'll get the answer.
I like that people thinking, right? Well, certainly thank you. In closing, Dr. Roshan, what else would you like to share with our listeners relative to cancer, to radiation therapy? What else would you like to share?
So I just tell them to be physically active, avoid the factors that we discussed, and create awareness regarding screening. So whosoever is listening, I think he will be our ambassador for screening. He can go and talk to in the community. So screening is available. You can just go and do these tests that are not invasive, so they're not painful. So I think that can save the person's life. Yeah.
It's amazing how we have that, and yeah, sometimes we know, but we're just a bit hesitant to do so.
Yes.
So screening would be helpful. Huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We'll pause and go to the news. When we come back, we'll talk today.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. On Friday, March 3rd, the Needs Assessment Unit will visit Westway Public Library from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Potential clients should view the online application form and self-assessment guide at the NAU website, nau.gov.ky. In international news, at least 650 girls have been poisoned by toxic gas in Iran since November in what many believe is a deliberate attempt to force their schools to shut. No girls have died, but dozens have suffered respiratory problems, nausea, dizziness, and fatigue. It became evident that some people wanted all schools, especially girls' schools, to be closed down, the deputy health minister said on Sunday. However, he later said that his remarks had been misunderstood. The prosecutor general announced last week that he was opening a criminal investigation, but he said that the available information only indicated the possibility of criminal and premeditated acts. Rupert Murdoch, the billionaire owner of Fox News, has acknowledged some of the network's stars endorsed false claims the 2020 election was stolen, but he denied all of Fox-backed Donald Trump's baseless claims of widespread fraud after his election defeat. Mr. Murdoch's comments were revealed in a legal filing as part of a defamation lawsuit brought by ballot tech company Dominion Voting Systems. Fox News denies defamation, saying the host's words were taken out of context. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
Health Services Authority is now offering online payment options for patients. Patients of HSA can now pay their bills, including deposits, towards scheduled services online at payments.hsa.ky. The secure, new online payment system accepts debit or credit cards and is in addition to the available payment options of cash, check, and online bank transfer. For quick, easy, and secure payment directly from your phone or computer, visit HSA's new online payment system at payments.hsa.ky.
Born in Creek, Cayman Brac on the 25th of September 1939, Henry Mansfield Connolly was the third of 8 children for Henry Kitchener and Olive Connolly. As with many of the men of his generation, he went to sea at the tender age of 15 and worked for Mr. Southwell and National Bulk Carriers for some 30 plus years. During this time, he rose from being an oiler pumpman to the post of second engineer after completing correspondence engineer courses from a school in New York. He sailed on many ships, including the Universe Leader, Universe Defender, or Titan, or Venus, or Meteor, or Transport. After his tenure at National Bulk Carriers, he was one of the few brackers who worked with Cayman Energy Company doing the ship-to-ship oil transfers off the island in the 1980s. After a medical injury, he retired from sea and started his own plumbing engineer company, C&H Plumbing.
At
Upgrade your summer travel plans with non-stop flights from Grand Cayman to Panama. Panama airfares are now on sale for just $2.96 CI round trip. In less than 2 hours aboard Cayman Airways, you can be in a land where the Caribbean meets the Pacific, where you'll find modern cities, rainforests, and so much more. Book by March 4th to catch Panama airfares on sale. Other conditions apply. Call 949-2311. Contact your travel agent or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Panama getaway today.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. And some days, that song says, some days are diamonds and some days are stones. And sometimes, Miss Nikki always says, the hard times won't leave me alone. It's all good. It's all good. Well, Miss Nikki Samuels, as we look at where we are in the calendar for the school year, I think many honestly look to the NCFA as part of that calendar. Should not be missed, not just by the students and the wider community. But good afternoon to you, Mom.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for having us on this afternoon.
All right. And thanks for bringing along, as more and more as we look at what the performing arts in particular can do to our society and our children, the idea that it builds confidence. And Stephanie, I don't believe it's, would be remiss if we didn't appreciate the contributions that educators have. So to you and Ms. Fran, and we got to Mr. Junior in a minute, how important that is to continue, because it's through that leadership that we see that nurturing, encouraging spirit that transcends the classroom and graduations.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, let's ask.
It's important for our children to be exposed to music. And
would you kindly just put that microphone, pretend it's a fishing line, just stay close to you. You grab it like this, Mommy, chuck it into you, close like that.
All right. I'm saying it's important for our children to be exposed to music and dance and drama and all of these things. Not only does it build confidence, but it is good for the nation. A country without the arts is just not a country.
But yet, though, and we'll be mindful that we don't get into it yet, in our personal budgets, in our national budgets as countries, there are things that are quick to be cut from the individual who may say, well, I won't cut my hair and do the nails and the other things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, child, we'll love you to go to certain activities. Those get cut. Similarly with the country. And yet, the music and the arts are crucial to the individual.
They're the first to be cut.
And they're as it is here, as in other jurisdictions. Before I ask Ms. Fran to join us, Ms. Stephen, from that perspective, though, as I'm mindful not to say, retired, but
I'm old.
No, I was.
I taught Mr. Hines, so I'm old.
Hold on. I taught Mr. Hines.
You know what? I'm going to be careful.
But I'm not embarrassed about it.
No, we should celebrate
Age
it.
is a number.
Yeah,
That's all.
we should celebrate it.
Yes.
And thank you for that, because that's what I was going to get at, in that we see from the early sort of education exploits of the young Mr. Hines to the elder hairs like Miss McConvey and you, Miss Stephanie.
Yes.
That music takes that child from, say, primary school, if it's able to continue through even university, whether it's a formal study or not, just the participation, what it does to the child's psyche, their confidence, their poise, their even presence of mind.
Mm-hmm.
How do we then take that and perhaps speak to the NCFA for us as community to appreciate this more than just the rehearsal and the performance and then the award at the end of the day? That is more than that. And what is that more? Miss Fran?
Miss Fran?
Because for the schools, it's the bragging rights. For the parents, it's, oh, look at my child.
But for the child, it's a huge, I was about to say rite of passage. It's not that. It's a huge learning curve. We were, this week John Gray it's momentous, and we're moving from the old site to the new site, so it's very busy. But I did have a couple of our violinists in this morning, and they were practicing, and we were practicing in the new performance hall with this amazing facility which government has provided. So there's a huge performance centre, and it has everything we need. We're going to have a steel band room set up, but the performance hall has got this amazing acoustic. Government have really put the money and into providing something which will be phenomenal for the children going forwards. And that these students were playing in the performance hall, and I was thinking, this is so fantastic. They were playing with confidence and enjoying the experience. And what a learning activity. It's not just about playing music. It's about being able to communicate with an audience, to stand up strong, to interpret something, to feel good about yourself. So the arts is such a learning experience. I think back myself to when I was at school.
Wow, that
was a very long time ago. But I don't really remember much about the English lessons and the math lessons. I remember the times when we got to perform, and we went out on the road and we were performing in the public arena. This is what kids remember.
Can I ask you, if it's okay, then Junior, I'll come to you in a second. You remember that with great respect. Is that because that was the thing that you enjoyed and liked?
I think it just stuck out. I also remember I was in school in Northumberland in the UK, and I remember going out with a clipboard on the coast with a plastic bag over it, absolutely freezing, trying to draw the coastline. That is also in my mind. I think anything which is slightly out of the usual you remember, but definitely the music was huge for me.
And the reason why I asked that is that as I was thinking that this discussion was transpiring on another day than today, and my thinking as I was speaking to the retired educator earlier, I referenced the comments in that, if I might, to you, Mr. Hines, as students, since we're both young, right? we have a similar hairstyle, so I mean, you may be a little bit older than me, right? But we tend to remember, as Ms. Fran just pointed out, that thing that sticks out in our minds because it was either, freezing rain, it was fun, it did something to us, right? Good afternoon. Before I ask, talk to me. How about you?
It's the same. I remember Miss Fran, and I also remember Miss Penny as well.
Yeah.
And I started at Savannah Primary School, which is now Joanna Clark. And I started on the clarinet. And back then, they would come and they will teach you the instruments. And then one of the things that we don't have anymore, which is that we also used to have a primary school band.
That's right.
Yeah. And then we used to meet at Georgetown Primary School on Fridays, and we would have a band. So that's something that is missed. But I remember at NCFA, it's something I participated in. So that's how I try to motivate my students, because I'm like, you're going to be in front of Miss... and she's one of the person that started it and everything, and it's been around for 40 years. And I mean, I'm not 40 years old, but I was a part of it. Some of your parents are part of it, so it's to motivate them, to let them understand the importance of NCFA. For me, I remember doing quadrille dance and stuff, so that's one of the things that stuck out for me, because I'm not, you'll never see me dancing anymore, but that's so
that's a good thing.
Yes. So it's something that it's been on for many years, so I'm passionate about it as well. it's also an opportunity for music teachers to see where they are with other music teachers critiquing them to let them know where they stand, and so.
And I'll be mindful to ask this and come back to Ms. Nick in a second to ask about the events coming up and the schools participating and but I wonder if it's us as parents and the expectations, just like we want the child to get A's in math and economics and everything else, is it that we're looking, particularly for music instruction, we're looking for them to get some grade as opposed to participating and becoming proficient and enjoying it? Not like we probably do the same with languages, but to be able to.
Yeah, at the end it is always to try to get the gold, but sometimes as teachers that the student is not at the gold level right now, but it's a motivation for them now to get input from someone else apart from you to let them see the reality of where they are. But the goal is important, but the participation as well is.
But they also get to see the other students.
School, yes,
but this is the huge thing, that they're no longer in a vacuum. They're seeing other students performing, and then they can get to judge for themselves.
And it's sorry.
No, I was about to say, and we obviously did well with it because people like Junior became a music teacher, Janelle Tibbetts, all of them passed through our hands.
Rebecca Jefferson.
They all passed through our hands, and there are no music teachers.
It's interesting. I thank you, Mr. Shannon, because I think from my perspective, as I was saying, I was thinking about this discussion today. I want to talk about, what is a great thing in our calendar, but I wonder to what extent, as the wider community, from the financial support to the physical participation to the nurturing and encouraging to the access through instruction, being able to play and play professionally and then play to be a professional musician. Different levels, but isn't it nice that if we think back to the Cayman history, the kitchen dances, we call them the fiddles, but there were people who enjoyed an instrument, they got together, and what was maybe a few hours of entertainment extended over perhaps even a few weeks. Take Christmas, for instance. So, Ms. Nikki, with that, NCFA season, would that be the way to put it? I'm just wondering. I mean, we have a mango season, maybe have a CFA season.
Well, this is our peak, because really, although it's a festival, this is something that we're hoping is integrated throughout the academic year and even through the summers with different activities that the children do. And my amazing persons here on the panel here with me today, they are just part of the puzzle that happens in the school that comes together to make this happen. But we actually start tomorrow in Cayman Brac. So tomorrow in Cayman Brac, actually Miss Stephanie and Mr. Hines will be heading over. They are going to, he's not going till Thursday, my apologies. Miss Stephanie's going over tomorrow together with Nicole Durant of the CNCF and also Miss Leslie Ann Bernard. She is a drama teacher within the John Gray High School, and they're doing the dance, the speech, and the drama elements tomorrow in Cayman Brac. And then on the Thursday, Mr. Hines will join Miss Stephanie for the music element of their program. It's to me the most fascinating thing is to watch the children start from even reception or year one, and then you see them grow, and they're growing not just within their musical element, whether it's singing or dancing, or because they actually expanded to different things. So you see the same children participating in the spelling bees and participating in other academic activities, because oftentimes, like Ms. Stephanie was saying, you tend to kind of put it in a little box by itself, but all of the soft skills and lessons that you learn within these activities flow into every single thing that we do in our lives.
May I just interject here for 1 second? Fran will support me. There was a time years ago when a certain school, I will not call the name, the children would go on stage and they would turn their back to the audience. They were so shy. They were out of town, all right? And they were so shy they could not face the audience. And we have seen over the years, they will come on and they sing and they do whatever they have to do. And they have grown. So it is amazing.
And they welcome the different feedback that they get. They don't kind of go, oh, this is my best and I'm not listening to anyone else. This is it. They're welcoming all the feedback. Then we start on Monday here in Grand Cayman. We have quite a full session next week. We actually have such a high volume in our vocals that there's 3 locations on Monday. So there we're going to be sending out to schools exactly where they're going to be. There are some schools where their choirs are 150 students. Wow. So to me, that's a testament of the commitment of those schools and the inclusion and bring everyone together. and the incredible listing and order performance, yes, they pulling out of here that happens, trying to make sure, because as you can appreciate, if we have 22 schools that are participating this year, there are very large choirs in a majority of those schools. We can't have them all at one location. So to making sure that flow is easy. On Tuesday, we welcome our secondary students, the Key Stage 3 and 4 for their instrumental solos, and the speech element for our primary happens on Tuesday. And then we switch that around on the Wednesday, where speech for Key Stage 3 and 4, speech and drama, for Key Stage 3 and 4 happen, and then the instrumental solos happen for the primary. On Thursday is the credit union ensembles and bands. They have been a steadfast supporter and sponsor of that program. And on Friday, we round off our week with the dance and drama element. Now, because it has grown so much, and not just the number of schools has increased, the populations of the schools, it is, as much as we try to get everyone together, it is impossible to have all, like how we can do in the BRAC, all the musical items on one day, whether it's primary or secondary. There's no way possible to do that here. We'd love it. So we try to get as much of a mix as possible, so you have that exposure for teachers and students.
And it just shows you the participation and the growth in it. Like you said, it wasn't long ago on Grand Cayman you could do what you do in the BRAC. It's not, but to see more and more of our students being and the categories being expanded, it's like the football season, the sports season. We just need to embrace it so that it nurtures the child completely and not ignore it because the child isn't, in our mind, doing the thing that, Junior, if you weren't encouraged and continued, you would not be educating us today.
No, definitely not.
But then from the perspective of grading and adjudication and, being awarded prizes and the like, to what extent does that add to it? Does it impact it in any way? Mr. Anthony, you've been, at the helm. Your honest perspective, does that...
If awarding goes well, life is competitive, Sterling. Everything about life is competitive. And I think people need to know if they're doing good stuff. It's important. I mean, music is kind of subjective in a sense. An adjudicator may think, that is good, and they sometimes the teachers are vexed and they're saying, no, my student should have gotten a gold. But it's important to have objective ears.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you shared that, because I was thinking the same thing, in that when it comes to sports, we talk about participation. We just want to win, everybody gets a medal. But when it comes to certain things, like, and to me, performing arts should be that thing that you encourage the participation, because you don't know where that diamond is that you haven't uncovered just yet.
That's right.
And we create, these impediments almost. The school you referenced, those students, I remember seeing them a couple of times. Quiet, diminutive, almost not even near the front of the stage. But if you were where I was standing a few times, saw their face, if I was behind, you could see them. They're now turned and facing the stage. So if we can do it with sports for participation, perhaps we could spin it around and do the same for other activities, in particular, music education instruction. Your students early, Miss Fran, in the mornings, as they come into the school, you have an increase in cohort.
Yes. Yeah, well, we're working hard to get more of the primary schools, students involved in the instrumental. I was kind of thinking when you were talking there, I was thinking about the parents. I think it's really important that the parents actually listen as well, because often that the child will go home and say, oh well, we only got a bronze, and it wasn't fair because we were so good. But I think, and it's easy to think, oh well, that wasn't very fair, but it's important for the parents to come out and listen. And the nice thing is there are final concerts where everybody can come, and really encourage any member of the public, but parents particularly, just to come out and listen to all of the groups and get an idea of the standard, because the standard is really exceptional. In most areas we have exceptional students and exceptional groups, and just because your child has gone up and they're very sweet and we all love our own kids, And it doesn't necessarily mean that item is a gold item or whatever you.
But even if it is or it isn't, the fact that you're there supporting your child. Today, it may be a bronze, it may not even be a placement, but who knows what tomorrow brings.
True.
And, you know...
Because even the great Usain Bolt couldn't run at first, you know, and it took some time to get there.
But as great as we are, there's always somebody who's better, right? And if our success...
Children who want to do something and are persistent are the ones who succeed. I've learned that over the years. It doesn't matter how amazing a child when they first pick up an instrument or they sing, unless the child is got that passion and persistence, they will be overtaken. It's the turtle in the hare. And it works every time.
Life isn't what they say, a sprint but a marathon, right?
No.
And maybe that's where we come.
And I have to compliment Fran. I know she doesn't want me to compliment her, but she started the string program in this country, and we have come miles, lengths and streets with it now. We used to think, oh, the Caymanian child can't play the violin, only Mr. Radley could play the fiddle.
Or Mr. Dux in West Bay.
Yes, you know what I mean?
But in every district there was one, you see.
Yes, but now a lot of our children play well.
But is that it? Maybe this is a discussion that I've been trying to ask more of us who have that wisdom and who may be in that space now where they don't need to get up in the morning to go serve the master to get a paycheck at the end of the day to pay the bills. We seem to be either consciously or unconsciously disparaging to our society. The Caymanian child can't play the violin, the Caymanian child can't be a gold medalist, the Caymanian child. That is not just offensive, right? It's demeaning and it displaces so many of our own. Yet we elevate some who have little to offer.
Mr. Sterling, as somebody who was there at the beginning, I can tell you that at first our children couldn't even move. They couldn't even dance properly. But everything is teaching and learning.
Yes.
And if somebody teaches you right, you will learn, no matter who it is.
But look to our church choir sometimes, right? We go up and we do a piece and we're told, put your hands in the pocket and stand still. That's unnatural.
Which is unnatural and makes you sing badly.
Yeah, but that's what we're told, right? And then if you move, and then if you're like me, where you kind of feel a little rhythm and a thing, you know? But
I know.
The things that your thoughts take you, that your actions are willing to prevail. All right, but this is an opportunity, Ms. Nikki, for us as a community to really see, as Ms. Fran and Ms. Stephanie shared, that through the instruction of, you know, the juniors of the day that now become the educators of tomorrow, we could appreciate the investment and involvement by just coming in and being a part of the audience.
That is very true. That's very true. And we're happy that this year COVID kind of took us on a bit of a roller coaster. This year we are finally able to offer everything face to face. Last year we had a hybrid version, but this year we're able to do everything face to face with the public if they would like to come out to support as parents or caregivers. There are some very large days, so it may be that you have standing room only, or you may be allowed to come in and watch your little one, depending on the size of the crowd that's there for the day. Because we do, like I said, we do have some choirs that are 150 students.
And the final concerts?
The final concerts will be in April. We're going to have all of the, instead of rambling the dates, we're going to have all that. It's actually on the ministry website. So I'm going to share that information shared with you, so everyone can have a look at that information for final concerts.
And if I may, the employers out there to come in there for allowing their team members to leave for a bit. It's only an event that's happened once a year. If your team staff member needs to go off for a bit to watch the child perform, we are diligent at making up for the time, but sometimes we feel reluctant to ask for it. So encourage it, encourage the participation. There are good employers who do that, parents who go and they come, and some who regret not being able to because of work commitments. This helps the child.
And you don't have to be a parent.
No.
It's encourage everybody to come and listen.
Yes.
I mean, music fills the soul with happiness.
Was it music be the food of love?
Something like that.
And that we ask that you be very flexible as well, because it is performances with children, it is adjudication, so it will not be exact of when these performances will happen, because a lot of them are reception in year one as well, so those take a little bit of extra movement sometimes. So we ask that you be a little bit flexible with the timing for us.
All right. Well, we're certainly looking forward to having other discussions, hopefully, Ms. Nikki, with you, not only when we get closer to the final sort of concerts and the like, but the event to encourage and to understand the importance, as Ms. Stephanie said. It's a marathon. It's about commitment. It's about providing that space for our children. Right, Ms. Fran?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we see some of the results. I don't know, somebody from your district is called Deacon.
Yes,
and he's brilliant. Thanks to Miss Fran.
There's lots of brilliance.
I know, but I'm just saying, as she just said, you don't have to be a parent.
Exactly.
She was not a parent.
Well, I'm glad you referenced that, because it just speaks to what I was thinking initially. As I was thinking this discussion was going to unfold later. I do apologize for that. But if we have that environment where the students can come in and we will allow them to find their own. You know, it may be an instrument, it may be a voice, it just may be a space that helps them. Right, Ms. Fran?
Yeah, but we also have to have the instruments, Vince. Like, I'm thinking now, you're talking about Dequan. Well, he would not have had a cello had it not been for Cayman Arts Festival.
Right.
And, I mean, the public who invest in that don't realise quite, I don't think they realise how much of an influence they have, because if you've got a good instrument that a child can play, they will run with it. You know, otherwise, I mean, Junior will remember back in the days at Savannah Primary, I remember doing violin classes, and the violins that we had were, I mean, you know, they were 4 strings strung on a box, and the kids got on with it. But if you have a beautiful instrument to play, that will make a nice sound. That makes all the difference. So we try very hard to give the children good instruments.
Yeah, but you know, you can't bake a wonderful cake and have one of the eggs be spoiled. So good ingredients, right?
And I think it's important to note too that these, like I know everyone offers these classes. Ms. McConvey offers, and I think every chance she gets, she offers lunchtime and break time and after school sessions for her students. But classes like that also offer a safe haven for students. From everywhere. There's often a lot of talk about anti-bullying strategies and things like that. But if you look on the other side of it, if we provide areas and opportunities for children to come to somewhere safe where they can come in at any time. I've seen it with art teachers as well. They offer their classrooms, come in and they're there supervising, and you're free to express yourselves. It just provides an opportunity for safety and also for positive interaction and also mentorships and so on.
Junior would attest for that, because I remember when he was at it was George Hicks at that point.
George Hicks,
It was at George Hicks, and we had swing band every lunchtime and band before school every day, and those were your friends. And they were like real buddies. And then we went off on trips overseas and played, and that's what gives you confidence and great friends for life.
Exactly. And hopefully we'll continue to build on these things, so that 100 years from now, it'll be something that we look back on. Statistically, we're not the best at that sort of things. But all right, Ms. Nikki, as we close our discussion, I want to say thanks to Brina, always being prepared. Your commitment and diligence is unquestioned. So, any closing thoughts, Well?
I just want to thank everyone that's come on board. Thank you for having us here today. Thank you to this is only part of the committee that's here today. That everyone has really, we appreciate the kind words, but it's not me alone. It's not only my face or my voice that you will hear, but it's everyone pitching in. It's one whole body that is going forward with this. And in the schools, the teachers' commitment is just incredible. We thank them for continuing to push forward with it. Sometimes, some days a little harder than others, but to continue to push forward, it is really a tremendous thing. And every year, without fail, I think everyone in the room feels the same way, that when we go to these events, the pieces that we see there are just incredible. Some of them we can't even imagine that is what has come forward to us, and the age of the student, or the commitment. And each of the students, I know when I first came, one of the things that Miss Stephanie was reinforcing was, make sure you are going through the etiquette of on and off stage. And I think she did that one year, and every year after that, all the students had the proper etiquette on and off. So all of those little things, all those little tweaks just make their whole performance complete. And everything, I think it's a very positive environment, which is good. There may be mumblings on the side, we don't know. But I think everyone feels that they can contribute their part and their voice is heard, for we can all move forward. It is a continually evolving event. And we all move forward positively together for the betterment of the children.
Thank you. I sort of, on this end that I've been, but to Ms. Franz and Ms. Stephanie and Ms. Tynes for being those educators who help to inspire, nurture, and encourage, and for those parents who are supportive, to those who provide a resource or assistance in some other way. It's an investment that is worth it. Have a wonderful time on the back, a safe trip, and as we participate, we'll see where we're going. Ms. Nikki, please, any point in that time to come back on to speak more to the event, even after as we talk to some of them, the awards. All right?
Yes.
All right. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you again very much.
You.
All right. Join us after the break.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad had taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's 2-for-1 Taco Tuesdays, and it's happening all day long at Taco Restaurant and Bar, located in East End and West Bay. Who doesn't love tacos, especially when they're 2-for-1? Featuring specialty tacos like peanut chicken, blackened fish, pulled pork, vegetarian, and coconut shrimp, and of course, all of your favorites. Enjoy 2-for-1 tacos and 2-for-1 margaritas every Tuesday at Taco Restaurant and Bar, all day long in East End and West Bay.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
It's all about humanity.
It will be Saturday, March 4th, the 11th annual Rotary Central Health Check, the almost island-wide Rotary Health Screening. See us at Foster's Republic's West Bay, Cost You Less at Governor Square, West Bay Road, A.L. Thompson's Georgetown, Foster's at Countryside in Savannah, Bordentown, from 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Take advantage of a free mini-medical, a physician's check on your blood pressure, your A1C, your cholesterol, your blood sugar, your healthy weight evaluation, and more. The 11th Annual Rotary Central Health Check in conjunction with the Health Services Authority. Saturday, March 4. Save this date that could save your life. Rotary, all the good you imagine.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. And always a pleasure to be able to have a discussion focused on education and health. And we had two today, so it's good from the Health Services Authority. We talk about nutrition and the importance of what we have, and increasingly gut health is important. So, Dr. Hopefully Jahari.
Jahangir.
Jahangir. Yeah, I wrestled that earlier, so I'm going to try. And then it's important though to you, Simone. Thank you very much again for coming on board.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm very good, Sterling. How are you?
All right. Now your pronunciation probably would be better than mine, right? Okay, I would want to say, for his. Sorry.
Well, I've been lucky enough to work with him now for more than a year, so I finally got the hang of it too.
Help me to get it.
Jahangir.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the Irish version of saying it anyway.
Jahangir, well, that's probably closer to what it is.
That's pretty close.
Jahangir. I always believe it's important to be respectful, but always to properly address people as they wish. So it was great that you've been able to be added to come on. Hopefully Mr. Mara will be back in the saddle soon and join us the next time. Dr. John, from that perspective though, we hear about gut health. Sometimes we even read in this, quick internet search would give us all sorts of things with what's going on. But really, what is gut health? And does it really matter? I mean, tell us about it.
Well, basically what you put in to your body. Your body's a temple. What you put in matters. Yeah. So what you eat is what you are. Various things that people have thought about in, various diets. There's so many fatty diets going around. It's just a mind-boggling, to think about the various things that people think about, when they talk about food. But let's break it down to something really simple. All you need to eat is fresh food.
Fresh food.
If that is taken as the most important thing, everything else will fit in.
There are many who would say, well, the food should be raw in terms of vegetables, or if it isn't, not cooked. So let me ask from two perspectives. Raw food, fresh is important, but raw?
Well, not all foods can be eaten raw.
Right.
You can't eat a raw potato. But, a raw tomato will be perfect.
Okay.
So each thing is different. I mean, you can cook fruits, but fruits are most definitely better eaten raw.
Okay. But like the tomato, we're told, and hopefully I have this correct, the lycopene is only activated if it's put to heat in the tomatoes. Is that true?
But there's so many other things in the tomato.
Okay.
Why look at only one thing?
Okay.
It's got so many vitamins. It's got so much of other minerals and nutrients. So never look at one thing. Now we talk about fresh. Take for instance a food like peas. Okay, peas they're picked usually in a field far, far away. They can be frozen as they're being picked and brought to the Cayman Islands a few thousand miles away. Now, those frozen peas actually contain all the nutrients that a fresh pea will have.
If the source is...
if it's frozen as soon as it's picked, which is most of the case of frozen peas.
Okay. Now, when we hear about the gut, maybe some of us immediately understand what that is, but maybe we don't.
Okay. The gut, you would say, is anything from the mouth right up to the other end. Okay. So it's involved in absorbing your food. So you actually your life depends on your absorption of food. Food is taken from the mouth, it goes down to the stomach, it stays there for about anywhere between 20 minutes to 2 hours, where it's churned around and mixed with the acid in the stomach. Now, the acid in the stomach is a protective mechanism and a very important part of that. It then goes into the small gut, which is called the small intestine. And food is mixed with various digestive juices there. It's churned around and moves down roughly around about 20 feet of small bowel. And most of the absorption takes place there. Then it goes on to the colon, the large bowel. And there mainly water is absorbed. And finally, it comes up to the other end when once a day your gut gets the message, let's clear out. It goes right up to the end and you go to the toilet.
Now, whether it's a myth or not, help us to understand it. We're told sometimes that if you eat, say, a particular food, don't eat another food with it. So don't eat your protein with your carbohydrates, maybe protein and vegetables. So if you're having carbohydrates, have it with the vegetables. Because the combination of one food with the other and the way the enzymes and the digestion, whether it's alkaline, is that true?
Not really. Human beings are meant to eat all types of food. We are an omnivorous animal, which means we eat anything.
Now, when it comes to our gut health, many of us will eat something and say, oh, that didn't sit well with me. It makes my stomach upset. Why is that? And what do we take when that happens? I mean, what should we do?
Well, there are many, many different types of upset that you can get. And each person is different. So it's not a case of I eat this particular type of food and I get upset. If you eat the same type of food, you may not get upset. So it's very individualized, and a lot of it is due to your upbringing and the way that you've had food when you're a child.
So having that early on, the practice here was to introduce, a child, have had this before, just alone, see how the child responds, and then gradually incorporate more and more. That's a good practice to get the child to.
Yes. I mean, you introduce all types of food when they are children, and when they grow up to adults, they'll be able to eat all types of food. Now, I'll give you a bad example. I mean, an example of a bad practice.
Yeah.
I've seen a 14-year-old who'll only eat crackers and cheese. And at 14, to eat only crackers and cheese, the only answer is, that's crackers. Completely.
Yeah. But with that, though, we're seeing, whether it's fads or whether it's preferences for some other reason, more and more of us are adopting certain dietary restrictions.
Dietary, it's again individualized.
Okay.
I'll give you an example, probably.
We're just very busy, also, and
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Will I help?
I'm
with that?
sorry.
In the meantime,
please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's for the hospital.
Yes,
I was
go
thinking,
ahead.
yeah, no problem. Thank you. I was thinking just to mention something when you were discussing before about raw versus cooked versus fresh and all of those arguments. One of the key things that we're talking about here when we talk about gut health is keeping the families of the good and the bad bacteria, keeping the right balance in check. Now, there are a lot of natural pre and probiotics in our diets that can go a long way towards helping address that balance and keep the gut healthy. So when it comes to food, there's a lot of fermented foods that are extremely helpful in keeping the gut healthy. So pickled foods, things like sauerkraut, even at the table when you see here in Kimban, you see the Scotch bonnets with the onion and the carrot sometimes pickled on the table. You see.
Well, see, that's what we do, the pepper sauce, that we call it, right?
Yeah, and you can see the whole
vinegar with the onion.
Absolutely. So you could do that, but you could add a couple of extra things in there, like cabbage and radishes, and maybe some scallions, and then you have a really good way to add these probiotics to your diet, something that you already eat, just enhancing it a little bit. So it'll add flavour, but it'll also bring a great amount of health benefits for your gut.
And I wonder sometimes, too, I mean, the more we think we know, the more we realize we don't know as much as we think we know. And we see the practices. And I had a conversation with another healthcare professional who's saying that in some cultures, vinegars, I think was the way she phrased it, different types of vinegars and the use in the meals, as you're sharing.
Yeah, and I mean, in Asian culture, for example, you get a lot of fermented soybean options, tempeh, miso, like that. And these add a very tarty, salty, flavour-enhancing component to a meal. Sometimes, we're used to cooking the way we're used to cooking and we like to stick with what we know. But every now and again, it's a good idea to maybe think, well, let me try something that's more Asian influence in my chicken and add a spoon of these things, because you might find that you enjoy the flavour more than you thought you did. And you will be adding a lot of these fermented soy-based products, which is good to promote the healthy bacteria in the gut, the growth of.
But the idea that increasingly we're finding it, especially now with all of what is transpiring globally, just getting food is hard, getting fresh food is even harder. And then
we have had a challenge for sure in Cayman the last year and a half, 2 years with the pandemic, just having the right choices on the shelf, not recognising brands of foods that we've never really come across before. But the situation was there is a shortage across the world, which makes us realise just how very important it is for us to have our own, become a little bit more self-reliant.
Food security.
Yes, food security, absolutely. But as Dr. Jahangir said, frozen is a good option too a lot of the times, because it's frozen at the source of picking, and as long as it's been stored correctly and it's not been kept frozen for an extended period of time, you can actually get a lot of good nutrients. As long as when you're ready to cook it, you don't overcook it as well.
And that's the other thing too. We tend to, some of us cook our food. We want to make sure it's cooked, but we can't overcook it.
Yeah.
How do we know other than it being charred?
Yeah.
Let's start with vegetables and that sort of. How do we know it's
cooked to perfection?
Yeah. Let's use it.
Well, as long as it's got a crunch. If you bite it and you can hear a little crunch. Now, some vegetables are not tasting as good if they still have a bit of crunch in them, but a lot of the ones we normally eat taste a bit better when they just are right on the edge where they're crunchy but not hard. But if they're too soft and soggy and you can just basically crush them with a fork, chances are they've been slightly overcooked. Plus, sometimes we prepare these things a little too early in advance of the meal, and then it's sitting around for a little while, so the nutrients then start to kind of diminish in the vegetables.
Is that what happens as well, right? We serve them, and then by the time we get it, it's been cooked a while sitting, and the nutrients diminish.
So if you are, for example, preparing a meal early in advance, a good tip is if you need to prepare the veggies in advance, make them go cold very quickly by running them under the cold tap, even a little bit of ice water so it brings the temperature down very, very quickly. Then you can store them in the fridge, and then as your guests arrive or it's time to serve the dinner, you can get with a pot of boiling water, you can pour it over the veggies. That would be sufficient to warm them back up again, and they won't overcook. But if you let them sitting in the saucepan on the stovetop for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, then obviously a lot of the nutrients are being lost. And then they get overcooked.
So by vegetables in particular, by cooking them for an extended period, we would destroy the nutrients.
A lot of the times, yes. Yeah.
What about, let's go to then meats then. There's some of us, if I can just use steak, some of us wanted it, from what I'm told is blue to charred, depending on your preference. Dr. Jahangir?
Well, there is some very incomplete evidence that if you eat your meat charred, it can lead to cancers in the long run. However, it's not been completely conclusively proved. So the difference between eating fully cooked meat and, say, very rare meat is that there are some diseases which can be spread if you eat rare meat because you're cooking it without killing the bacteria and you're basically having it uncooked right in the middle. Cooking it all the way, if you char it until it's black, that is also not good. It also reduces the nutrients. You find it even more difficult to eat. So there is a balance between them. But again, remember that this is fresh meat that you're talking about.
Yeah.
What is actually bad is processed meat.
And that's the convenience that we have.
Yes. Let's give it the sausages, corned beef, spam, that sort of thing. Now, that contains preservatives, mainly nitrites. And these have been known to be implicated in the cause of colon cancer. So that is one of the biggest, it's the second most common cancer nowadays with men and women if you put them together. So processed meats is something that we would like to avoid.
And I guess labels and the like, but maybe then I could ask from two perspectives. What, if anything, can we determine that, hey, something may be wrong with my gut? How would we know? How do we tell?
There's so many symptoms. Okay, first talk about the simplest symptom is pain. Everybody recognizes when you got tummy ache. And that's your tummy telling you there's something going on. So it would be best for you to seek help at that point. The danger signals are blood. Okay, so if you see blood, my mantra in telling people is every day, if I can give you one thing to do, is when you go to the toilet, look in the pot. Okay, if you see blood, you need to see a doctor. Okay, that is an absolute danger signal. The other thing is that if you're used to, over the years, going, say, every day, regular, like clockwork, and suddenly you find, oh, I'm going 2 times, 3 times a day, and it's lasting for some time. That's called a change in your bowel habit. It's also going the other way. Like if you're regular and you start going once a week or once in 4 days, there's something wrong. So it's the change that matters. It's not the absolute figure. Like some people regularly go twice a week. That's it. Some go twice a day. So there's a wide variation. But if there's a change in your normal habit, then you need to see a doctor.
Yeah. And I appreciate you emphasizing that, because sometimes we ignore that. We chalk it up to something else.
Yeah, I would say 2/3 of this room is really the ones who ignore it.
Yeah.
It's the men who are useless, who never see a doctor.
It's sad, and you just shared something that I've heard other physicians only share in consult. Thank you for saying it publicly. Have a look at what you do, because it tells a lot, and it's perhaps why in here, maybe in other places, there's a practice in the summers that your mother, your grandmother give you something to help you during the summer to clean out your system. Is that a good practice, sir?
Not really.
Okay.
Because the stuff they used to give was like castor oil, something really, really caustic. Basically, it strips your guts out.
Yeah.
Not really good practice to do, that sort of extreme thing. It's better to eat a very balanced meal. A meal that contains a lot of vegetables and a lot of fruits, and that's the most important thing, because vegetables and fruits gives you fiber.
Okay. So those gut healthy foods, high content of fiber and the like?
Yeah. High content of fiber and low content of processed food. If you have processed food, the whole problem with processed food is the preservatives that are used.
Okay. If I may ask you, and respectfully, I certainly want to be guided by you, because some people, this is lunchtime, but there are many who have been diagnosed with IBSD and the like. What can we do for those? Is there
IBS?
Yeah.
Okay, now that is a very, very generic term for many sort of ailments of the gut. It stands for irritable bowel syndrome. Now, the reason why we put everything together is that there are too many things to describe within that.
Right.
So a lot of it is very individualized. I'll give you an example. A patient of mine came and described all the symptoms of IBS. She had bloating, and she had pain, and feels uncomfortable. And we went through a list of foods that she ate. Okay? And I said, okay, among the list of food that you ate, there's probably one which might cause the problem. There's broccoli. She said she ate broccoli twice a day for the last 20 years. And I said, maybe that's the cause of the problem. So she stopped eating broccoli and all her symptoms went away. And it wasn't the broccoli itself that was causing the problem. It's what she's eating basically tons of broccoli every day. If you have broccoli twice a day, it's quite a lot of broccoli. Yeah. Now, that produces a bit of gas and that caused the problem. Now, each patient is different. There's another patient that came and had sort of similar symptoms. And we went through the list of foods that I get people to write a food diary. So they come with a book, what they've eaten and what their symptoms are on the other side. And this patient had only two problems when she ate two foods. One was onions and one was garlic. So simple solution. Don't eat onions, don't eat garlic.
Knowing what you eat, paying attention to it.
Absolutely. And it's so individualized. So it's not a generic thing. You can't just say, oh, no, nobody should eat this.
Right.
Okay. Almost all foods are good for you.
Right. So with that then, and with the IBS, and then there are those with the D or the C or the like, they may have gone to the physician, may have gotten it. But again, through you, I'll be guided. Fiber, we know, helps to, keep you regular.
Yep.
Someone with IBS and and has the IBSD as opposed to the C, would that person with the D want to have high fiber content in their diet?
Yes, but again, it depends on the type of fiber.
Okay.
So there's a soluble fiber and there's fiber which is not soluble. Take, for instance, if you eat callaloo, that's got a lot of fiber in it, but it's a coarse fiber. Some people can't handle it. There are more refined fiber. Like, take, for instance, porridge is probably one of the things. Oats. It's a little bit more refined, and a lot of people tolerate it better. So, again, it's horses for courses. You have to know which one works for each person. And the best way to find it out is trial and error.
Yeah, like eliminating the things that, because a lot of times when patients come, they already have figured out the triggers quite a bit. So that's always very helpful. If it is IBS, obviously a high fibre diet is often the starting point, but there are some additional dietary modifications that can also be made to help. There's the low FODMAP diet, which is gaining a lot of popularity these days. You have, obviously, some people find a gluten-free and a dairy-free diet can help. Diet rich in probiotics and prebiotics will help. So there's multiple ways to come at the approach, fibre being the more common and usually one of the more successful ones, but it depends on how much the person can tolerate.
Well, I have a personal thing that people should eat fibre. I'm a colorectal surgeon. I deal with bowel cancer. The more fibre you eat, the less chance you have cancer. Simple.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the thing, I mean, and that's why I asked about the practice of a parent, well, mothers and grandmothers in particular. I appreciate what you shared. I'm wondering though if we have that fibre, if we're keeping ourselves, as clean as possible as we would when we go in for colonoscopy. There's a way to make sure their choices keep us as healthy as possible from the gut perspective.
Diet choices, the best thing is home cooked food, fresh food. And that, I would say, more than anything else. I mean, we live in a very convenient society. We want to just grab the food, chuck it in our mouths, and while we're driving.
Guilty.
Between meetings, right? We do that.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing.
Yeah.
You need to have proper food. I mean, Cayman, unfortunately, has very poor soil. So a lot of the food we have here is not grown locally. That is changing slowly. There are a lot more farms coming up, a lot more using hydroponics, and the local food is very good. The local farm produce is excellent. I think people should support them more, buy more of it, because the stuff that you get from, the mainland, it's been picked like 3 weeks before.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. Sometimes it's been picked and refrigerated and it comes off after 3 months,
Yeah.
It's dead.
And that's where, as you shared, I appreciate you remind us, our bodies are our temple. Right? I know, Dr. Jahanga, you have to get back to your practice. We have the news, but thank you. Hopefully we can have you back on again at some point.
Sure.
I'm sure there's a lot more you could share with us.
I'd love that.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Mr. Moore, I know that you had initially shared, I was told just a half hour, but you have some extra time. You want to talk more about nutrition? All right.
Sure.
Let's do a news break, and when we come back, at the end of the day, there'll be a quiz. How healthy are you? Well, we'll have Mr. Moore remind us. Stay tuned. Join us after the break.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. Upcoming Needs Assessment Unit district visits are on Friday, March 10th at the Boddentown Public Library from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., Friday, March 17th, East End Civic Center from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., and Friday, March 10th, North Side Civic Center from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. In international news, the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments in back-to-back cases that could determine the fate of more than 40 million Americans' student loans. It comes after President Joe Biden, a Democrat, announced a plan last year to forgive up to $10,000 in federal student loans per borrower. So far, Republican-appointed lower court judges have blocked the plan. Top court justices on Tuesday questioned if the president's actions were lawful and warranted. The Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, will make a final ruling on the case by the end of June. Police in Peru made a surprise discovery when they searched a delivery man who came to their attention for acting drunk at an ancient archaeological site. Inside his cooler bag was an ancient mummy. The man said that he had been sharing his room with the bandaged mummy and considered it a kind of spiritual girlfriend. He explained that he kept Juanita, as he had nicknamed the mummy, in a box in his room next to the TV. He added that it was owned by his father without specifying how it had come into his father's possession. Experts said the body was between 600 and 800 years old and that it was that of an adult male, not a woman. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
Between the traffic, the meetings, kids' activities, there just isn't enough time. Best Health Pharmacy was a game changer. Not only are they centrally located on Eastern Avenue, but they deliver prescriptions for free anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. I could not believe it. When my prescription ran out, they ran it back to me. Best Health Pharmacy, located at Crown Square Plaza on Eastern Avenue, across from Edie's Decor, offering free prescription delivery anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. Call 949-1301 or WhatsApp your prescription to 924-5358. Best Health Pharmacy. Your health, your convenience is their priority.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And just a few extra minutes, I'm grateful that Simone Sheehan over at the HSA, one of the dietitians. Now, that's the word I use. And some say nutritionist and some say dietitian. Not sure if there's a difference, but
both work.
Both work.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for taking an extra couple of minutes to
My pleasure.
conclude our discussion as we're talking about gut health and the like. And you use words that we might know: prebiotic and probiotic.
Yeah.
But maybe we don't.
Well, a probiotic is when we reintroduce, whether it's in yogurt and things like that, or kefir, or those types of options that we add in our diet, or whether we take it in an actual chewable or capsule or powdered form. But the end result is that the healthy bacteria families and the balance in the gut gets restored, which then in time obviously improves the integrity of the gut. We know that having a healthy, it's called your microbiome. It's what you call, as Dr. Jahangar was saying, the bacterial family from your mouth that lines your entire gut. That, and also fungi and different things grow in there as well. And they all have important work to do. But sometimes, whether it's because of stress, poor diet, excessive alcohol consumption, smoking, illness, chronic illness, this microbiome gets affected and changes. And so some of the, let's call them the bad guys and the good guys, the bad guys, the bad bacteria, those numbers flourish more than the good guys. And so the integrity of the gut gets affected by that. So you get increase in inflammation and so on. So this can be linked with diabetes, obesity, even cancer. So it's important, and it's something that we don't think about. We look after our hearts, we look after our kidneys, we look after our eyes, we go to the dentist, and we never really think about our gut, and it's one of the most hardworking organs in the body, and it's something we take for granted a lot of the time.
I don't even think about it as an organ necessarily.
Yeah, but it is. It's like your skin, but on the inside.
Yeah. And the skin, we apply things to our skin.
Yeah.
From the mosquito repellent to sunblock to even the moisturizer.
Nice clothes.
And what impact is that having? We know that if we were at a barbecue or an evening out and there's a smoke, we may not find it unpleasant, but we can still tell it in our clothes and our skin.
Yeah.
So with that on the outside and with the gut on the inside, some would talk about having alkaline and not too acidic. How does that come into play, and does it matter?
Well, when your gut is happy, all these factors get naturally adjusted by the body. So when we've corrected the bacterial families and our microbiome is happy, we must then continue to feed that microbiome so that it ends up being continuing to be happy. That's where the prebiotics, and as Dr. Jahangar was saying, a high fibre diet that's rich in fresh fruits and vegetables, and including some specific foods like fermented foods that actually are like superfoods and give us a blast of that probiotics as well. But the prebiotics are the substrates that the healthy bacteria in the gut thrive on. So in addition to fibre, there are some that are especially good at providing these prebiotic sources for the gut to continue to flourish and the bacterial families to remain healthy. And I think a lot more people are becoming much more aware of how important your microbiome is. And even when you go to the supermarket now, you see several local communities, businesses producing kombucha tea, for example. And you've got several that I can think of that are made locally here in Cayman. And we know that kombucha tea is a really good way of keeping, your microbiome and your bacterial families happy. The simple addition of onions or leeks or asparagus to food can really build up the prebiotic content. So I think one of the take-home messages really is diversity, willing to try some new things added to some tried and tested recipes, making sure that we have as much of a variety as possible, with emphasis obviously on the fresh side, lots of fruits, lots of veg, bok choy, callaloo, carrots, all the colours, all the rainbow there, and then you are improving your odds quite significantly of having a really good balanced diet and keeping the bacteria happy.
I think as Dr. Jan has shared as well, sometimes there are a lot of myths that we had. I mean, I asked them one relative to something I've always heard, never necessarily subscribed to, but don't eat this particular food with this food because, the enzymes, to break down one are different for the one to break down the other. But we're omnivores as he shares us, right? Or designed to be as such.
Yeah, I mean, it is about providing, because some foods, nutrients more than foods, to be honest, the absorption is dependent on the presence of other nutrients being present, such as like calcium and phosphate, for example. So if you eat calcium sources in your diet, but there isn't a source of phosphate in the gut around the same time, you're not going to absorb as much calcium from that food. Same with iron and vitamin C. If you take any plant, non-animal sources of iron, you will absorb some iron from that. So your green leafy vegetables, for example. But if you take them with a source of vitamin C, such as a fresh orange, as part of that meal, now your body's going to absorb more iron from the vitamin C. So separating eating this food now and this food later and a different food, so you're not eating them all together as a mix, isn't always, in my opinion, the best approach.
So I guess we need to understand then, as you shared, that, yes, we think we're doing this, but the combination. So if we have the iron, do we have the vitamin C? So take us a meal. What foods, just use those two examples and I'll come back to the calcium phosphate. What food would give us the iron, and then what food or thing to give us
the vitamin C?
So we put them together.
Yeah, so the iron that you get from red meat and liver, for example, that's called heme iron. That is not as influenced by the vitamin C content in your diet at all. But it's the plant, the non-animal sources, so your green leafy vegetables, for example. So if you were having a meal with callaloo, or even a lot of the breakfast cereals that you see fortified with iron, if you take that cereal in the morning and then you have a fresh orange or a couple of 2 little small mandarins or half a grapefruit along with that meal, you're going to absorb more iron with that cereal because you took it with the vitamin C had you just had the cereal on its own. Now potatoes, or Irish potatoes, are also a source of vitamin C, for example. So if you're having a mixture of green veg, broccoli, callaloo, bok choy, spinach on your plate, and you're having Irish potatoes with that meal as well, the vitamin C that you're going to get from the Irish potato is going to enhance the absorption of iron that way.
Would that be the same for the local sweet potato or the American sweet yam? That vitamin C content would still be the same, the monato and the legs?
It might not be as high as Irish potato, but it will have some, but it might not be as high. But then you will get something else like vitamin A, beta carotene in your sweet potato because it has a nice orange yellow colour.
Yeah, I like the Cayman local sweet potato. I mean, it just a purplish tinge to it. It's just sweet, but it's amazing.
Yeah,
and you grow up thinking that it has all these nutrients. So is that part of our challenge? We don't understand not only the source of our food, but what is in our foods.
And when you have foods that are very local or specific, it's the same with bush medicine. Sometimes we can't always get the right data about what is exactly. Now, something like a yam and Irish potato, those are very common all across the globe. But some things that are very specific or unique to this region, you can't always get proper evidence or information about those foods.
And I probably discredited it too because it's not properly documented and researched and
verified,
it
may not be scientific,
and all those things.
But all wives' tales, your grandmother did it, her grandmother did it.
It worked, right?
and something else to remember, as Dr. Jahanga was alluding to, is the because it's fresh, because it's local. Then there's it's had less chance to be contaminated or in any way, kind of undergo some sort of deterioration,
So, listeners saying that local sweet potato, I just tastes good.
So good, yeah.
Now, for the calcium and the phosphate, I guess it's like putting things together, right? So I appreciate the example with the iron and the vitamin C.
Yeah.
But I want a meal with calcium and phosphate.
Well, this is one of the clever things that Mother Nature does is, as it happens, a lot of foods that are high in calcium also happen to be good sources of phosphate, which is a good thing. So, for example, sardines, which is a very popular thing here with breakfast or just with vegetables and potatoes for dinner or whatever it may be, tin sardines, because the bones are soft, you can eat them, and therefore you're getting really a good amount of calcium and phosphorus together. So Mother Nature has been very thoughtful in that regard to put the right nutrients together in the foods.
Sardines came to mind. I was trying to think if there was anything else that we could suggest. I mean, some people don't like it. I mean, sardines with hot sauce, pepper sauce, that's just on crackers as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, cheese, yogurt, milk, fortified milk, because a lot of times people are moving in the plant-based milk direction, almond milk, soy milk, oat milk and so on. In those situations, the calcium is added back in sometimes to bring it up to the levels. Cow's milk naturally has its own calcium content as well. You also get small amounts of calcium from oranges, some green leafy vegetables, even broccoli. You get some calcium there as well.
No, what about, in that perspective, when we're looking at dietary choices, some of us are maybe consciously reducing our intake of certain foods. Maybe we're going more plant-based in a sense. Are there any concerns that by so doing we could be limiting the nutritional values of our diet?
Well, like anything, if you're going to make a drastic change, deciding, for example, to become a vegetarian or even a vegan, it does require some meal planning to make sure that all the boxes are ticked. So if you're going to do it in a well thought out way, then it can be extremely healthy approach. If it's a question of I'm just going to cut out all animal foods and not concern yourself with where else is your protein going to come from and some of your other nutrients, then that over time can cause a problem. And certainly if you become a vegan and you eat no animal foods whatsoever, there are key nutrients like vitamin B12, for example, which can create, deficits can occur. You have to take supplements in that situation a lot of the times.
Can that vitamin B12 be had from plant-based foods?
Not unless it's added back in.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes from animal foods. So, yeah.
I mean, you share that, but just for emphasis, because sometimes I think that we think we're being healthy and we're probably healthy-ish, but are we as healthy as we can be in the absence of sufficient information?
Well, one good thing too, though, if you're buying those sort of dedicated plant-based, vegetarian, vegan type meat alternatives and so on, is because that industry knows that there's a deficiency in things like iron and calcium and B12 in that population. They often will add extra into those foods as a way to counteract some of the, the lower levels that will be naturally found in those foods. So they will add more supplements to it and fortify the levels to a sufficient amount.
Okay. Well, we have the short break to take. Okay. And perhaps when we come back, maybe ask you a bit more as we look at, the nutritional value of what we eat.
Absolutely.
Please rejoin us after the break.
Upgrade your summer travel plans with non-stop flights from Grand Cayman to Panama. Panama airfares are now on sale from just $296 CI round trip. In just 2 hours aboard Cayman Airways, you can be in a land where the Caribbean meets the Pacific, where you'll find modern cities, rainforests, and so much more. Book by March 4th to catch Panama airfares on sale. Other conditions apply. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Panama getaway today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Row Variety, centrally located in Tropical Plaza on Smith Road, carrying a wide range of household items, bathroom accessories, towels, clocks, handbags, clothes, shoes, jewelry, and more, and more, and more. You can buy from the big box retailers or support local. The better deals come from shopping local. Row Variety Store, Tropical Plaza, Smith Road. Telephone 924-9553.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you can afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu starting at just $3.50 gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shedden Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value menu. The deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Head east on Cove Road. Sharp left on Church Street. Sharper left. No, your other left. Did I say left? Nope, you missed it. Okay, I'm lost.
With money-saving bundling options for home and motor, we're like a GPS that doesn't steer you wrong. CG Brick K. Good like that.
Let's stop and ask for directions.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks to the Health Services Authority for this regular feature to be able to focus on health. And as we speak to Ms. Simone Shion, one of the dietitians over at HSC, the idea was we were talking to Dr. Jahanga. Right? Did I get it right?
Perfect.
He was so amenable. Just came in and he said, a winning spirit. Hopefully we'll get him back. As he to get back to his clinic. We got to look at our gut health. We have a question for one of our listeners, if we may ask, and a couple others that we recorded and want to ask before we close up. If you could ask if there's any danger to absorption if you take different combinations of vitamins and supplements. So I know a number of us, we take different supplements. So maybe if I could borrow from that question to ask, as it was asked, any danger, with the absorption of different vitamins and supplements?
Yes, there is actually, because well, a couple of things to remember. When you look at a multivitamin supplement, for example, it will indicate on the box or the packaging what percentage of the RDA or some language like that is contained.
The recommended allowance, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But there's sometimes you'll see other words used to describe it too, and it'll say 50%, 100%, 75%. But remember, just because it says that on the supplement doesn't mean that's actually what your body's going to absorb from that supplement.
Okay.
So there's that. The next thing to remember about supplements is that it is intended to be just a supplement. It's not intended to ever be the permanent or steady supply of nutrients in your gut for your gut. So it's important that you try your best to get the nutrients that you need from your food, and a supplement is something you need at certain times of your life. In pregnancy, for example, in teenage years, maybe if you're undergoing a specific illness, then you need an extra supplement in those times. Or if the doctor tells you, you've got low iron levels or low B12 levels, for example, or low vitamin D, which is very common. The next thing to remember is if it's a multivitamin and it has a mixture of water-soluble and fat-soluble vitamins, we absorb and store the fat-soluble vitamins. So that's vitamins A, D, E, and K.
So do that for me, because I was a question to ask you.
Fat-soluble vitamins is vitamins A, D, E, and K. And we'll absorb those. So we store those up. So if we're supplementing, then the chances of us getting closer to a level that could become toxic can be more of a realistic, unfortunately, situation that can occur. And a lot of times I do find people are doubling up and trebling up in some of their, because the way it might be packaged is this is for your nails in your hair, and then this is for your gut, and this is for your skin, and this is for your aging, and so on. And when you actually look, there's a lot of duplication, and there is a risk with that. Plus also, our bodies, for the water-soluble ones at least, our bodies will only absorb what it needs and will eliminate the rest from the body, the water-soluble. So, that's the B's and the C's and so on. And so what you might find is if you're taking a lot of supplements and you notice that your urine changes colour to this very bright, yellowy green, almost radioactive looking, that is basically the excess supplements being eliminated
The
from the body.
ones.
The water-soluble ones,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So really what you end up there is with very expensive urine because you only took what you needed and the balance is being excreted from the body.
And the body will know. I mean, if you take 5,000 IUs of vitamin C, for instance, and the body says, no, I only need 5 milligrams.
Yep, the rest is
It's
gone.
It'll know what it wants.
Gone. Exactly.
Right. And I appreciate you, because I wrote it down to ask about the supplements, and the fat soluble ones will be the ones like this A, D, E, and K. We'll absorb them. We can get more of them in the system that builds up over time.
Stores in the liver, correct. Right. So there's more risk of toxicity because our body hangs on to those ones.
So with those then, some must take a vitamin every day, would it be then in the fat soluble ones to take on maybe not every day but every twice a week, or how would we know when to take them?
The best approach is look at dietary sources. But if you have, for example, a low vitamin D level, the best way to correct that is through a vitamin D supplement. So that is a dedicated vitamin D supplement, just directly that one thing, until the levels are restored. And we do come across a lot of low vitamin D levels in the Cayman Islands.
Despite the sun, huh?
I don't know, it's confusing, but it's common, very common. I had 2 patients this morning, for example, with low vitamin D. So you can recommend dietary sources, but the best way to correct that is through a supplement. But with any supplement, it's always important to take a break from taking it too. Nobody needs to supplement 365 days a year in, year out. That is not a good idea for anybody. So taking a break, say you take it for 10 days, you take a break for 10 or 20 days, take it again, then that gives your body the opportunity to metabolize and address any balances that way.
A practice that I do, I share it publicly because maybe it's not good. I know the supplements I take, and I won't take them every day, like the water soluble versus the fat soluble, and maybe twice a week. On this day and this day, I'll take this, and I'll alternate them. It was the tip I was given to by a physician. It sounded like it works okay.
Yeah. If you have a busy life, a busy job, hectic schedule, working parents, a lot of time spent in traffic, and you end up picking up food on the road because you just don't, by the time you get home, the thoughts of homework, laundry, cooking dinner is too much for you. And you find yourself picking up processed foods, fast foods, then chances of you getting all the nutrients you need are slim or lower than normal. Right. So, in a situation like that, especially if you've got kids, teenagers, they do require extra, especially as teenagers. So a supplement is a good idea in that situation.
With supplements then, is it then, you referenced the fat-soluble ones relative to toxicity in the liver, like potentially, and we don't speak as a physician, could they lead to other issues like kidney stones, for instance, if you have too much of a build-up of, is it D, perhaps? Well, from the dietitian perspective?
Yeah, it's not just the vitamins, it's a mix. See, as Dr. Jahinga was saying, food is not just one thing. Most foods have lots of functions, more than one function. So it might be a source of a nutrient, it's also a source of fiber. It might also be a source of a prebiotic. It may also be a source of like you were saying, tomatoes, lycopenes, polyphenols. Foods are not just one thing. They are a whole host of things. Right. So if you're getting kidney stones, it can be due to several factors. It's not just typically one cause.
Yeah, I guess with the tomato, maybe it's good to have it raw one time with your salad and maybe put a little heat to it when you're grilling something, just for variety and flavour.
Tomato sauce in your pasta or tomato soup or anything like that.
Let's ask about fibre. I think there's soluble fibre and non-soluble.
Insoluble.
Okay,
yeah.
So there's those two. What's the difference?
Well, there's actually a lot of confusion about what fibre really is. There's more than just those two categories there.
Yeah.
Right. There's lots of unfermented and fermented. So it's a whole complicated question, that one. But loosely speaking, you have insoluble and soluble. Insoluble fibre is the kind of fibre you get from whole grains, so brown bread, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, high fibre cereals, crackers that are whole wheat based, and so on. Those are largely the whole form foods. You got quinoa and bulgur and so on in there. those are the kind of fibre sources that are primarily very good at increasing fecal weight and therefore addressing constipation, because they keep the stool soft. But remember, if you're eating a lot of insoluble fibre, you have to also drink a lot of fluids, because fibre works by binding to fluid in the gut and keeping the stool soft. The soluble fibre is the kind of fibre you find in oatmeal, fruits and vegetables, all peas and beans and legumes and so on. That kind of fibre is very good at addressing things like cholesterol, blood sugar levels. It functions in a slightly different way. Now, both these two broad categories of fibre overlap too. So you have soluble fibre that contains some insoluble fibre, and you have insoluble fibre that has some. So it's not just one, it's only, you can't just fit in one category or another, but having a mixture of both of these types of fibres is helpful to keep you healthy. But if it's constipation or bowel habits are your main concern, then the insoluble fibre is the one to focus on primarily in that regard.
That'll help keep your gut clean. As well, right.
And keep your gut happy, because the microbiome, the bacteria in the gut, that is their main food source. And remember that these bacteria, they don't just keep our guts healthy by keeping, the pH and the bad guy numbers down. They also produce vitamins. They reduce inflammation. They have a whole host of important jobs. So.
And as you referenced, the soluble and insoluble fibre, you said the soluble, like oats, for instance, but then insoluble whole grains. Some would say, well, isn't oat whole grain?
And I guess that's a good point. But again, that's where the insoluble and soluble overlaps, because it does have some insoluble fibre in it too. But it's primarily functions more like a soluble fibre in the gut. So, for example, if you were to have a breakfast which started with some porridge, a slice of whole wheat bread with a boiled egg, then you're really getting the best of both worlds there, because you're getting your soluble and your insoluble at the same meal at the same time. Yeah,
and I think this is where having a chat with our dietitians, understanding their food, as we speak to our physicians as well, appreciating that the body is not only the temple, but it is the source of our health, and our gut health is important.
Very. And it's something we don't really think about very much.
No, we eat something and we like it, and then if it doesn't agree with us, we'll probably find something to take after that to settle us without fully appreciating maybe there's more to it that's going on.
And there's more lifestyle factors too, like sleep. Sleep hygiene and adequate sleep, uninterrupted sleep, continuous sleep, adequate in terms of hours of sleep, and then timing, sleeping when it's dark and awake when it's daylight. Those factors even influence our health quite significantly, our weight and even our microbiome. So good sleep hygiene and practicing that is really critical to wellness and having a healthy body.
I do recognize the time, but if I may ask just two quick questions, one with sleep and one with a son. So the sleep, there are those who say, well, this amount of hours. Some would say, well, between this hour and this hour. Any truth to that? And if so, what is it?
The truth is, we're meant to be asleep as humans when it's dark, and we're meant to be awake when it's daylight. So trying to go to bed before too late in the night and then waking up in the morning when the sun starts to come up, doesn't have to be quite that early, but following that general rhythm, your circadian rhythm, that's the ideal time to go to sleep. In terms of hours, it varies on your age and kids and adults, but we really shouldn't as adults function on less than 7+ hours sleep a night. And if you get a good night's sleep, you know how terrific you feel on top of the world the next morning. You can do anything. And if you've had a bad night's sleep, you just don't feel good at all.
And when you wake up and you're restless, right? So with the sun, there will be some who say, get the sun between this hour and this hour, or this hour and an hour. If it's so, what are those hours?
I don't know if that's an exact hour to put on it, but it's daylight for sure, which can activate the vitamin D. So I don't think you need to lie in the sun and burn your skin or anything like that, but I think you do need some, obviously, daylight. Honestly, I don't know if there's any beneficial timing, but daylight is what's key there.
Right. And there are those who would say, no sun before this hour, no sun after this hour, and between this hour you avoid it. So whether that's true or not.
Well, I think you can get your vitamin D in the early hours of the morning or the late hours of the afternoon.
Once you get it.
When you can activate it in your skin. So
I did want to ask 2 questions, but the last one has a supplementary. 5 minutes or 5 hours, 20 minutes? What is that direct exposure for how long they should be in the sun?
Honestly, I can't be 100% confident in answering that question.
No.
I don't exactly know what the number is.
Yeah.
But I think it's about maybe a little bit every day might be the trick there.
There you go. Consistency and motivation and everything else, right?
There you go.
And the reason why I appreciate you answering is that those are the things that we labor on. And maybe we have typed it into the internet search and heard it. Maybe it's something that was passed on from our great-grandmothers.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some merit in it, but the idea is get that in Cayman. You know, we live in this space, and yet there are many of us who are vitamin D deficient.
Mm-hmm.
We may have been okay in one blood test cycle, don't return 6 months or a year later and go, oh, your vitamin D is a level.
Yeah.
What is our lifestyle?
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts from me, Mom. Thank you so much for coming in, but what would you like to say to us?
Sterling. Well, in summary, really, look after your gut. Make sure your diet is low in processed foods as much as you can manage. High in like raw, natural, lots of fruits and veg, lots of whole grains, lean proteins. Stay well hydrated. Consider taking a course of probiotics at certain times of your life, or even just on a regular basis, because there's just a lot of wear and tear on our bodies, and we don't necessarily give the body the chance to heal itself. So something like a probiotic product can be very good for that. And there are certain probiotic products that are targeted at women, targeted at men, targeted at athletes, targeted for specific ailments, and that's because the type of bacteria that's in the probiotic is a specific bacteria like a lactobacilli that has been shown to be beneficial, for example, for someone experiencing a lot of loose stool. So the probiotic product you select to use is also a factor.
So know what we put into our bodies, ask questions, and understand.
And I think every pharmacist or nutritionist or physician, when you go speak to them, would be happy to discuss these concerns.
All right. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And as one of our listeners, we close out, shares with us, maybe we need to look more at being active, and if it would help us, assign certain days for certain things. This listener says, on Mondays, that's the laundry day. Be more active.
Yeah.
Become, as you alluded to, a bit sedentary. So it's good to know.
Yeah, maybe a 4-day week would be lovely. A 4-day working week.
I remember advocating for that long ago, only now to have people say, oh, you were being wise and not lazy. I saw it in Germany in the mid-90s. It's very effective. The state of Utah in the U.S. did a study in 2008 and 2009. There were significant benefits. It may not work for everyone. It may not work for every employer or every industry, but as a healthcare professional, you advocate for it as well, so thank you. It's beneficial. Maybe that will be the subject for our next discussion.
Thank you.
The psychological, emotional and physical impact of a 4-day work week.
Yeah, I'd say there's plenty of research out there.
Yes, that's one thing worth researching. Well, Ms. Simone, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sterling.
Thanks to Ms. Susan. And for the rest of you, please start your day off right. Not just with a prayer and the like, but be with Mr. Art in the morning for the record, and then come back for Talk Today. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Is where tradition never dies. This is your radio, Cayman.